You ever notice how some people only show peace when they're gone? That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. See, toxic people don't just walk into your life. They build a home in your energy. And the longer you let them stay, the more they convince you that chaos is normal. But here's the truth. The secret to removing toxic people isn't confrontation, it's distance. It's learning to step back so far that your silence becomes louder than their noise. Because when your peace becomes your priority, they'll remove themselves. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Because when someone has already decided who you are in their mind, no amount of talking, proving, or defending will change that picture. They don't listen to understand, they listen to respond. They twist your words, they pull your tone apart, and they act like your every action needs a justification. And you keep explaining, hoping that maybe this time they'll finally get it. But they won't. Because the problem isn't that you're unclear, it's that they're unwilling. You see, when people are committed to misunderstanding you, it's not about facts, it's about control. They need you to keep talking so they can keep holding power over you. They feed off your frustration, your need to be seen as good, as right, as fair. They don't want resolution, they want reaction. And the more you give it, the deeper you get pulled into their web of manipulation. Every word you speak becomes another rope, tying you to their drama. You ever wonder why some people never seem satisfied, no matter how much you explain? It's because they're not looking for truth. They're looking for advantage. They want to keep you defending yourself, because a person who's always defending can never stand in peace. They'll pick apart your intentions, question your motives, remind you of things you said years ago, all just to keep you off balance. And when you finally get tired, when you decide to walk away, they'll call you cold, distant, or fake. Because your silence exposes what their noise was hiding, their insecurity. Explaining yourself to those kinds of people is like trying to pour clarity into a cup with holes in it. No matter how much truth you pour in, it leaks right out. You can't fill what they refuse to hold. The moment you realize that, you stop chasing understanding from the wrong hearts. You start protecting your peace instead of proving your point. You start realizing that your energy is valuable, and not everyone deserves access to it. Some people misunderstand you on purpose. It's a game to them, because if they admit they understand you, they lose control of the narrative. So they pretend they don't. They act confused, they twist your tone, they weaponize your emotions. It's emotional warfare, and the battlefield is your patience. They want to see how far they can push you before you break, how much explaining you'll do before you finally give up. And once you do, they point the finger and say, "See, I told you you're the problem." That's why the secret is not more words, it's fewer. Not more proof, it's peace. You've got to stop handing out explanations like apologies. You don't owe everyone an inside look into your reasoning, your emotions, or your choices. People who truly respect you don't need long speeches to understand you. They watch your actions, they know your heart, and even when they disagree, they don't twist your intent. That's the difference between healthy people and toxic ones. Healthy people seek clarity, toxic people seek control. And you can't reason with control, you can only walk away from it. Think about how much time and energy you've wasted trying to make someone see your side. You replay conversations in your head. You rewrite your texts before sending them. You try to find just the right words so they won't take it the wrong way. That's not communication. That's self-defense. And you don't need to live your life in defense mode. The people who are meant for you won't make you feel like you have to explain your worth every time you speak. They'll meet you halfway, not stand across the room and demand you justify every breath. The truth is, sometimes silence is the loudest explanation you can give. Because silence says, I'm done playing your game. Silence says, I don't need to be understood by you to be at peace with myself. And when you stop explaining, you stop feeding the cycle. Toxic people can't argue with what you don't say. They can't twist your silence, can't misquote your calm. You take away their favorite weapon, your reaction. And here's the shift that happens when you stop explaining, you start growing. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly because they're not being drowned out by someone else's noise. You find your confidence returning because you're no longer seeking permission to exist as you are. You stop living for approval and start living in truth. The less you explain, the more you align with who you really are. And suddenly, the people who once had power over your emotions start losing their grip because they can't control someone who's not trying to be understood by them. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. Knowing when to stop explaining doesn't mean you think you're better. It means you've realized not every conversation deserves your presence. You can't teach someone honesty who's addicted to twisting. You can't teach someone empathy who's committed to blame. Some people will only ever understand your silence because words give them room to manipulate. But silence gives them nothing to hold on to. And yes, it's hard because you care, because you want to fix things, to be fair, to be heard. You don't like walking away with things unresolved, but you've got to accept that not every misunderstanding deserves your repair. Sometimes walking away is the resolution. Sometimes protecting your peace means letting them stay confused. You can't spend your life trying to make people see the good in you who are determined to find the bad. You'll drain yourself proving what time and truth will show on their own. Stop explaining yourself to people who twist your story into a weapon. Stop defending your intentions to those who never believed in your sincerity. Stop giving speeches to audiences who've already made up their minds. The only person you truly need to explain yourself to is you. Because once you understand your why, once you are grounded in your truth, the noise outside of you doesn't stand a chance. When you learn to stay quiet in front of false accusations, manipulative behavior, or twisted narratives, you regain your strength. You stop playing their game. You let your consistency speak for you. Over time, the truth always surfaces, and the people who were committed to misunderstanding you expose themselves without you saying a word. Your silence becomes your statement, your calm becomes your boundary, and your peace becomes your power. Set boundaries that protect your peace, not their comfort. Because every time you let someone cross a line that disrespects you, you teach them that your peace is negotiable. And the truth is, people will take as much as you allow, not because they're evil, but because comfort is addictive. The more you bend, the more they lean. The more you explain, the more they expect. Until one day you wake up realizing that you've been shrinking yourself just to keep everyone else comfortable. Setting boundaries isn't about being cold or selfish. It's about being clear. It's saying, this is where I end and you begin. It's the invisible fence that protects your energy, your time, your mental space. Boundaries don't push people away. They filter out the ones who don't respect you. Because the ones who truly care will understand them, and the ones who don't will be offended by them. And that reaction alone tells you everything you need to know. The hardest part about setting boundaries isn't defining them, it's enforcing them, especially with the people you love. You'll feel guilty. You'll question yourself. You'll replay the moment in your mind, wondering if you were too harsh, too distant, too cold. But that guilt you feel, it's not truth, it's conditioning. You've been trained to think that peace comes from keeping everyone happy, even if it costs you your own sanity. And that's not peace, that's performance. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call you difficult when you start enforcing them. They'll say you've changed, that you're selfish, that you've got an attitude now. But what they really mean is you stopped making me comfortable at your expense. They want access to you without accountability. They want your yes without earning it. And the moment you start saying no, they feel the loss of control and they call it betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it's balance. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks. You decide who enters, when they enter, and how long they stay. You don't owe anyone unlimited access just because they're family, friends, or partners. Love without boundaries turns into exhaustion. Care without limits becomes resentment. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't stay kind when you're constantly drained. Protecting your peace is what allows you to keep showing up with clarity, compassion, and strength. Think about it. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you betray yourself a little. You teach your nervous system that other people's comfort matters more than your calm. That you're responsible for everyone's emotions except your own. And that pattern slowly chips away at your confidence. But when you start honoring your limits, you start rebuilding trust with yourself. You start telling your mind, I've got you. And that self-trust is the foundation of every healthy relationship you'll ever have. Boundaries are how you teach people to treat you. If you let someone speak to you with disrespect and stay silent, they'll assume it's acceptable. If you let someone drain your time and energy without speaking up, they'll believe your availability is endless. But the moment you calmly say, I'm not okay with that, you shift the entire dynamic. You move from being reactive to being intentional. You stop waiting for people to change and start changing what you allow. And let's be honest, some people won't like the new version of you that has boundaries. Because the old version of you was convenient. The old version tolerated disrespect, over-explained decisions, and kept the peace by staying quiet. The new version doesn't do that. The new version chooses peace, even if it causes tension. And that's growth. Growth isn't comfortable. Growth makes people uncomfortable because it breaks patterns they benefited from. But that's how you find who's real. Those who stay and respect your boundaries are the ones who were never here for what they could take. They were here for who you are. When you start setting boundaries, you'll notice something powerful. Your circle may get smaller, but your peace will get stronger. You'll start attracting people who value clarity over convenience, respect over access, truth over comfort. You'll realize that the right people don't need constant access to feel close to you. They just need honesty and consistency. You'll also realize that the wrong people will call your boundaries distance, only because they can no longer exploit your presence. Boundaries don't just protect you from others, they protect you from yourself, from overcommitting, from overthinking, from overexplaining. They remind you that you're not responsible for managing how other people feel about your decisions. You're responsible for making choices that align with your peace. You can care deeply and still say no. You can love someone and still create space. You can be kind and still be firm. Those things can coexist. Because saying no to chaos is saying yes to peace. You owe it to yourself to create a life that feels calm, not constantly chaotic. You deserve to rest without guilt, to decline without explanation, to exist without performing. Your peace is sacred, and it's not something you should hand over just to make someone else feel comfortable. Because comfort built on your discomfort isn't peace. It's control disguised as care. The people who truly love you won't need you to destroy yourself to prove it. They'll meet you in the middle. So when you start setting boundaries, don't be surprised when people test them. They'll push back, argue, guilt, trip you. They'll use old versions of you as weapons. You used to be so understanding. You've changed. You're acting different. And you are. You've learned that protecting your peace isn't rude. It's necessary. You've learned that not every battle is yours to fight, and not every storm deserves your shelter. You've learned that love without respect isn't love, it's dependency. And one day, the same people who once tested your boundaries will either rise to meet them or fall away from your life. Either way, you'll be lighter. You'll stop carrying relationships that only survive because you never say no. You'll stop confusing being needed with being valued. And you'll start living from a place of calm confidence, not guilt and chaos. Because boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about keeping yourself intact. They're how you make sure that your kindness doesn't get mistaken for weakness, that your love doesn't get used as leverage, and that your peace doesn't get lost trying to please people who were never meant to stay. Learn the power of silence. Not every battle deserves your energy, because silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the pause that protects your peace, the stillness that keeps you from getting dragged into chaos that was never yours to carry. The world teaches you to respond, to defend, to clap back, to prove your point. But real strength, it's knowing when your voice will create peace and when it will only feed noise. Silence is not about avoidance. It's about control. Control over your emotions, your words, and your energy. It's saying, I know exactly what's happening here, and I choose not to give it life. You see, some people don't argue to understand. They argue to win. They don't want clarity, they want chaos. They bait you with sarcasm, twist your words, and when you respond, they smile. Because they've got you. You've entered their arena, and in their arena, logic doesn't matter. The louder you get, the calmer they become, because your reaction is their validation. But silence takes that away. Silence says, I see what you're doing, but you're not going to get my peace as payment. When you stay silent, you shift the power. You remind them that your calm can't be controlled. Most people misunderstand silence. They think it's passive, that it means you don't care. But silence isn't about not caring. It's about caring enough to protect your peace. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that you refuse to explain it to someone who's already decided to misunderstand it. Silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you've realized not every situation deserves your voice. You don't owe explanations to people who twist truth into entertainment. You don't owe reactions to people who thrive on attention. The most powerful thing you can do when someone tries to drag you into drama is nothing. No reply, no defense, no energy. Because silence forces people to face themselves. It gives them no fuel, no feedback, no escape from their own reflection. When you argue, they can point at you. When you stay silent, all they have left is their own behavior. And that's uncomfortable for them. Your silence becomes a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. There's a reason silence is feared by manipulators. They can't twist it. They can't argue with it. They can't use it against you. Because silence is the one thing they can't control. They depend on your reaction to maintain power, and when you take that away, they lose their grip. That's why silence is not a weakness. It's an unspoken boundary. It's your way of saying, I'm not giving you the satisfaction of my reaction. Because sometimes your peace is worth more than being right. Learning to stay silent doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you master them. You feel anger, hurt, and disappointment, but you choose not to let them run the show. You don't respond out of impulse, you respond out of clarity. And sometimes, the clearest response is none at all. When you master the pause, you give yourself time to see the truth. You start noticing that not every insult needs an answer, not every lie deserves correction, and not every misunderstanding requires your defense. Sometimes the most powerful statement is your composure. Think about how much chaos you've escaped simply by saying nothing. The argument that didn't happen. the text you didn't send, the energy you didn't waste trying to explain what time would reveal anyway. Silence saves you. It keeps your dignity intact, because once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. But silence gives you options. It gives you control over how you move next. You can choose to address things later, or you can choose to walk away completely. But you make that choice from peace, not pressure. When you learn the power of silence, you stop chasing closure. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't listen, and you stop trying to win battles that only drain your soul. Silence becomes your strength because it allows you to choose where your energy goes. You begin to understand that every time you engage in pointless arguments, you're spending energy that could have been used to build your peace, your purpose, your life. And that's a trade no wise person makes. Silence isn't just about what you don't say. It's about what you say to yourself while you stay quiet. Because silence gives you space to think, to breathe, to reflect. It's in silence that you remember who you are, what you value, and what you refuse to tolerate. It's in silence that clarity shows up. When the noise fades, truth gets louder. You begin to see that the person trying to provoke you isn't always your enemy. They're your teacher. They teach you patience, restraint, and the value of not reacting. They show you where you still need peace within yourself. And sometimes silence exposes what words could never reveal. When you stop responding, watch how people react. Some will respect it. Some will panic. Some will get louder, desperate to pull you back into the chaos. And that's how you'll know who's really in your corner. Because people who value peace won't punish you for protecting yours. But those who depend on your reaction will feel threatened by your calm. That's how you separate genuine connections from emotional traps. It's easy to speak when you're angry. It takes real strength to stay still when your ego wants to scream. Silence doesn't mean you're letting them win. It means you've stopped playing their game. It's walking away from a fight where there's nothing left to prove. Because you don't win arguments with toxic people. You win by not giving them the stage. The moment you stop performing, the show ends. And make no mistake, silence isn't about pretending something didn't hurt you. It's about choosing healing over reaction. It's about saying, this pain won't turn me into what hurt me. You don't need to shout your peace into existence. You live it. You embody it. You show it through your discipline, your calm tone, your decision to walk away instead of explode. That's strength. Because real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It's quiet, steady, unshakable. In a world that glorifies loud opinions, silence is rebellion. Everyone's talking, but few are thinking. Everyone's reacting, but few are reflecting. When you choose silence, you're choosing intention over impulse. You're choosing depth over noise. You're choosing peace over performance. And that's what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. So, the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this: silence is not you losing your voice. It's you taking it back. It's you saying, my energy is too valuable to waste on this. It's you standing firm in your peace while the world around you scrambles for reaction. Because not every battle is yours to fight. Not every comment deserves your response. Not every situation needs your explanation. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is simply staying silent and letting your peace do the talking. Choose distance over drama. Let your absence speak louder than your defense. Because sometimes the loudest message you can ever send is silence wrapped in space. Distance is not avoidance, it's clarity. It's the moment you decide that protecting your peace is more important than proving your point. It's understanding that you don't have to fight for a seat at every table or respond to every noise that calls your name. Some people only understand your value when they can no longer reach you. Some lessons are best taught through absence, not arguments. When you choose distance, you choose peace. You choose healing over hostility. You stop giving energy to people who drain you and situations that don't deserve your presence. You stop chasing explanations that fall on deaf ears, because not everyone is meant to understand you, and that's okay. You don't need to justify the space you take or the silence you give. You just need to know why you're doing it, because peace isn't found in proving yourself. It's found in protecting yourself. Drama thrives on attention. It needs fuel to survive. The moment you stop reacting, the fire dies. And distance is that silence that suffocates the flames. It's the boundary that says, I'm done arguing about the same things with people who don't want to change. It's the strength that comes from realizing that not everything broken is your job to fix. Some people aren't looking for peace, they're looking for power. And the only way to win with people like that is to stop playing their game. Distance is your victory. You see, the most toxic people hate losing access to you, because your energy, your attention, your reaction, that's their control. They'll push your buttons, guilt, trip your kindness, and question your loyalty, all to keep you in their cycle. But once you step back, once you remove yourself from their reach, the power they thought they had over you disappears. They'll call you distant, cold, or heartless. But you're not being heartless, you're being healed. You're choosing peace over chaos. And people addicted to chaos will always see your calm as betrayal. There's a kind of strength in walking away that no argument can give you. Because walking away says, I know my worth. It says, I've outgrown this. It says, you no longer get to decide how I feel about myself. Distance protects your energy from being wasted in places where it's not valued. It's not about revenge or ego. It's about emotional maturity. It's knowing that peace sometimes costs connection, and that's a price worth paying. When you step back, you give yourself room to breathe. You start to hear your own thoughts again, free from manipulation and noise. You begin to notice how much lighter you feel without constantly explaining, defending, or fixing. You rediscover parts of yourself that got lost trying to please people who only took. You start realizing that love isn't supposed to feel like exhaustion. That loyalty shouldn't require losing yourself. Distance gives you perspective, and perspective brings peace. Sometimes you have to let people feel your absence to understand your presence. When you pull away from toxic patterns, people have no choice but to face what they've done. And if they don't, that's okay too. Because closure doesn't come from conversations, it comes from acceptance. Distance isn't about making them miss you, it's about making yourself whole again. It's about saying, I deserve peace, even if it means being misunderstood. You stop needing them to see your side and start standing firm in your truth. Choosing distance doesn't mean you hate them. It means you love yourself enough to stop accepting pain as normal. It means you finally understand that peace isn't something you find in other people. It's something you protect within yourself. The moment you stop trying to fix what keeps breaking you, healing begins. And healing sometimes requires disappearing, even from the people you thought you couldn't live without, because you can't grow in the same environment that caused your wounds. Distance teaches you who was really there for you. The ones who respect your space don't chase you with guilt. They reach out with understanding. The ones who are using you panic when they can't reach you. Watch their reaction. It'll reveal their intention. Real love doesn't demand your constant presence to prove itself. It gives you room to breathe, to think, to heal. Toxic love panics when it loses control. That's how you know what's real and what's not. And the beauty of choosing distance is that it gives you your power back. You start realizing that you don't need to shout your worth to be valued. You don't need to argue to be understood. You don't need to stay where your peace is constantly being tested. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful way to say, I'm done letting your chaos control my calm. Distance says what words never could. It says, I respect myself enough to leave when staying means losing me. When you create that distance, the noise fades. The guilt starts to disappear. You stop replaying what you could have said or done differently. You start focusing on what you can control, your response, your healing, your growth. You start realizing that your silence isn't empty. It's full of self-respect. It's not loneliness, it's liberation. It's the quiet realization that peace was never out there. It was always inside you, waiting for you to stop chasing chaos long enough to feel it. You'll notice something powerful once you embrace distance. The things that used to shake you no longer move you. The arguments that once stole your sleep no longer matter. The people who once made you question your worth no longer define it. Because distance creates clarity, and clarity brings strength. You learn to love from afar, to forgive without reconnecting, to wish people well without letting them back in. That's what maturity looks like, loving peacefully, not painfully. And one day, when someone asks why you left, you won't need a speech. Your peace will be the answer. Because distance speaks louder than defense ever could. It shows growth, discipline, and self-love. It says you've finally learned the difference between letting go and giving up. Giving up is quitting on yourself. Letting go is choosing yourself. And when you choose distance over drama, you're not walking away in weakness. You're walking away in wisdom.